said if we don't go, we'll never be able to leave him, so.
How old?
Costa Rica, 2 years.
Dog is 2 years?
Yeah.
I've had dogs before, no?
Yeah, I have a 8-year-old golden and a golden before that. It's the only one that's kind of like needy.
I'm going to
You
Virginia
know, you have enough
Beach
dogs. One's gonna
for
be
3
like
games
a
of
lemon.
baseball for my grandson.
It's like kids.
Go to Carolina,
Exactly.
stay at our
I'm sure you got one of those.
Yeah.
Go to Jacksonville,
4, right?
play 3 days.
You know what? I really only have like half a lemon. I mean, they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
So you have a junior, right? Yeah.
In
Your
college?
oldest is
Yeah, Jeremy's a junior in Florida.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's doing a 5-year program.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna get an undergrad and then a master's in accounting.
Oh boy, okay.
Oh, that's a 5-year program.
Yeah,
Right.
so he's got technically he's got 2 more years of school.
So what do people do that? Like I have an accounting degree, but I never used it. So
pay fair
what do
market
people
price
do?
for
Like if you just got accounting, but you didn't get your master's, is it
But you
like?
need 150 credits to get your CPA. So like I mean,
So no one does 4 years of account. Like no one does 4 years with accounting. You know, if you're doing accounting, you know you need that 5th
you
year.
need
Like
30 extra credits. So
Right.
I mean, look, you can come into school with some credits,
Right.
you know,
Right,
APs and
exactly.
whatnot. But you're either gonna have to take a bunch of summer classes, or these schools have devised these programs to keep them there for 5 years, and then you get your undergrad
right,
and then your master's.
right.
Yes.
So you know if you're getting counted, you need those.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. We good?
Okay. Okay, we're going to start. Welcome to the February 7th meeting of the Rybrook Zoning Board of Appeals in the year 2023. We appear to have 4 members of the board this evening. We did not receive notification that there would be any absences, so it could be a traffic issue. So I just let you folks know that if you want to be heard by a full board of 5 members, as we address your application, you can request a move to the March meeting, which I just found out. We will also be short 1 member, at least 1 member, possibly 2. So you have that option. Therefore, we will hear you making a presentation. If your name, introduce yourself, your name, your relationship to the applicant. If you are not the applicant, please come to the podium, and we'll do our best to hear your application, and as always, give you a fair hearing. This evening, we have 3 applications before us. One that was partially before us in the previous month. That's ZBA 22-032 DRJ West LLC, 32 Lincoln Avenue, expand existing parking court. While the presenter is coming up, please come up. With us today, we have Village Council Drew Gammels, also representing Keenan Bean. We have Christian Gates, who's sitting in the audience. We have our acting building and fire inspector, Steve Fuse, and we have Board of Trustees liaison, David Heiser. And the video is being brought to you from a balloon somewhere off Myrtle Beach by Fred Seifert. Please, you can begin.
Okay, John G. Scarlato Jr., the architect for the owners at 32 Lincoln Avenue. So I'm going to show you pictures of 32 Lincoln Avenue, which is, it's Lincoln Avenue, as you know, is a scenic overlay district, which means you have the vegetated buffer, which is the first 35 feet of the property line in from Lincoln Avenue. And Rybrook zoning doesn't allow, normally your parking has to be 25 feet off your front yard setback, off the front yard property line before you can park. And in the scenic overlay district, it's 35. So the house right now has basically this K-turn, which is also used to park a car. So the issue here is on Lincoln Avenue, backing out of this driveway, because on the curve, it's between the entrance of the Crawford Park and Talcott. So between the traffic coming out, turning, the cars on the curve coming around, and most people not going the 30 mile an hour on the road that they're supposed to be, it's really dangerous to back out of the driveway. So what they want to do is create 2 parking spaces and kind of move the create the 2 parking spaces kind of in front of the K-turn off to the side, so that you can actually back out of the garage and down the driveway if somebody's parked. And if somebody's parked, they can actually turn around and get out of the driveway, so that people don't have to back down the driveway. So that's what we're going here for. So let me go to the drawings. So pull up the drawing. I'll make it bigger so you can see.
We should do something.
Okay, so what we're proposing to do is the entrance of the driveway staying as it is, and we're just widening this piece, and we're creating a parking area in this part. This is actually the old line of the driveway. So we're just pushing the parking, we're creating 2 parking spaces going further to the right and a little bit more of an angle to get into them, so that you can pull out of the parking space and turn around. So our issue is the vegetated buffer is 35 feet. The edge of our parking is 25. So we need a 10-foot setback to park a car in our vegetated buffer. But the house is landscaped on the front with a hedge and grasses and landscaping, and we're going to add arborvitaes along our parking. So this is going to be all landscaped, so that we won't see the parked cars.
John, of all the houses on Lincoln Avenue, the Scenic Roads Overlay District impacts everyone, but some of the houses are really far back, and it's not an issue. This one is one of the closest ones to the main road.
Yeah, and I'll answer that question. See this? See this dotted line?
It's not dotted now.
That's the wetland buff. That's the wetland buffer line. So although this is a very large lot, the area to build the house is behind that line, and the area to put the parking space is really out of the buffer. So that's why this house is closer to the road than the other ones, and is positioned where it is, and we really can't get the parking on the side of the house because we'd be in the wetland buffer.
Right. Okay, that, each lot is unique in its own situation, and when I look at the wetlands buffer, we have certain roads that, in certain sections of certain roads, it's really difficult to come back onto the main road. It's a lot easier on a side road or a dead-end street. So when I looked at this, one of the positive takeaways for the variance was the fact that it is pushed closer to the street, and that's a reasonable explanation of why it is. The other thing that comes to mind is that of all the time I've been on this board, over a decade, this is the first time a change from the previous application to the new application has resulted in just trees. So that came as an initial surprise to me. So make the case, you sort of alluded to it a little bit with the wetlands buffer, but make the case as strong as you can as to why you couldn't chop that down a little bit more.
And while you do that, John, can I ask why, if there was a K there already, right? Or the hammerhead?
Hammerhead, yeah.
So why is that not enough? I'm just trying to figure out if someone's backing
Because if
up.
a car is parked in the hammerhead, it's really very close to the garage door. And you really, like, the hammerhead's really not meant for parking, it's meant to turn around. So
How far is the edge of the hammerhead to the garage? We'll go at least look at the picture again. What's that distance? Go back.
See if I have a better one that has more of those.
Well, there's gotta be, you must know what the.
I guess
measurement-
part of my question is, it sounded like there's a car parked there, so is that meant
That's
for?
my car because I had to park to take the pictures.
So is that,
And I didn't park in the K.
is it meant for a parking spot as well, this?
I mean, a K-turn technically isn't parking.
Right.
A K-turn is usually when you're on a busy road. It's so that you can back out and then turn around. So if you backed out of the garage, you could turn into the K. and then
I don't mean to
drive.
be obnoxious about this, but we had a situation a few years ago where somebody wanted a similar variance, but not for the reasons you're talking about, but because they had 4 cars in a boat, and they wanted more parking. So my question is, how many cars does the applicant have?
The current applicant.
Current applicant.
The applicant, I believe, has 2 cars.
Okay. Thank you.
But we're not trying to create a parking lot. We're
No,
just
I
trying-
just,
I get-
somebody
I
came
get-
before this board some years ago, and that was their application. They needed, because they had too many cars. That did not go over well.
In your estimation,
And our issue really is we can't relocate, like, if we relocate the parking, then we're in the wetlands. So the concept of putting a parking space in the planning board and putting it into, the wetlands and get it out of the scenic overlay district.
What's the distance
is-
from the edge of the K or the hammerhead to the beginning of the wetlands? If you pushed it deeper.
Well, right now, I think I'm pretty much right on, like, within a foot or 2 of it, I believe. Let me go back to my drawing.
And just take a step back, John. Is the need for parking, or is the need to turn around so they pull out straight?
The need is to be able to park 2 cars besides the 2 that are in the garage and be able to turn around. So if a guest goes to that house, they can get out if somebody's parked. Because the problem right now is if somebody's parked there, like a guest comes, 1 person, you have to back down the driveway. So their key is to try to at least park 2 cars and be able to turn around so that nobody has to back down the driveway. And I know from putting the signs up and down and backing out during the day.
And why do you need 2 parking spaces rather than 1?
two
Well,
jet.
because they're on Lincoln Avenue, there's nowhere you can't park. So if you have guests, you're either parking in the driveway and backing down it. Like, you can't park on Lincoln Avenue.
No, I understand that. I'm
You
talking
can't
about-
really park in Crawford because
No.
parking Crawford's way up, and you can try to park on Talcott, but that's its own issue.
So you cannot reduce that requested increase at all and still have the functionality that you want?
And I felt we were really coming in with the limited because you really, for 2 cars, you want 20 feet. And that's kind of what works there. So we really can't move it much closer to the house.
And what is the size of that?
And I'm going to say, if we weren't the scenic overlay district, it's totally conforming parking.
Right.
So if this house was on a normal Rybrook street, we wouldn't be having this discussion. It's only the scenic overlay district that's making this not work, because the scenic overlay is what's making it 35.
Right. And when the wisdom of the trustees declared scenic road overlays, they knew that that was going to put a burden on all the residences affected by that, by virtue of that it's an overlay on top of an existing. So, it does have its benefits, but it also has drawbacks.
Right, but this house also has a lot of landscaping. So it's not like we're looking at a house that doesn't have a ton of landscaping between the road and the house.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, the mitigating situation for me is the fact that the house had to be put where it is, based on the wetland buffer. And I approached this as, how come the only change was vegetation?
Well, I mean, I didn't do the last application. Somebody else did it and brought it, and I don't know what their numbers were exactly. And this is similar to what it is, but I'm not thinking it's the exact same.
So the assumption is it's smaller? Is that what you're implying?
I think it actually was slightly smaller than what was before.
Mm-hmm.
This one works. The other one wasn't quite.
Okay. Please,
Sure.
please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Chairman. My name is Malik Samad. I was the builder of the house.
Okay,
and then I sold it to the Martinos less than a year ago. And then I remember the first time when they walked the property and they saw it, they had a concern about it. Now the Hammerhead, they have, I stand corrected, they have 3 cars. It's a husband, wife, and the son. Now the daughter lives in Rye. Every time the daughter comes, she has 3 kids. So I was there one time, she has to back up, the father goes on the street to stop the car and things like that. So the Hammerhead can be used only for the cars inside the garage, because it's too close to the house.
Right.
So if a car is parked outside, they cannot use the Hammerhead.
right,
And then all along, I'm here because I could have told her, you know what, I sold the house, I'm out. But when she bought from me the house, I said, it can be done, I will help you with that. So before, she got another architect, and then she reached a dead end.
Right.
So then she came back to me, you told me that it can be done. That's why I reached to John, because he designed the house for me.
well, okay,
So that's what created the change in architect.
right, okay.
Okay, so I'm here to help them because they really need it. It's not, let's say, it's a hazard for the grandkids.
No,
and the kids.
I recognize that. Same situation exists on Ridge Street with a lot of the folks coming out on Ridge Street and on Lincoln. Just a few houses that happen to be, designed because of the restrictions on the lot. The fact that there are, in fact, 3 cars is new information, but the variance goes with the property, and it doesn't just go with the current owners. So therefore, the board has to look at, whether or not, that's sufficient enough reason to grant the variance, based on the fact that there are 3 cars there now, and the difficulty of getting out. So I appreciate, you coming forward and adding that piece of information.
I'm trying to help because
Understand.
I promised her, that's why.
Understand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of John?
No.
Okay, Steve, any?
No.
No? Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak in favor of the application? Okay, anyone want to speak against the application? Now, Steve and Drew, no one has recorded any letters of support or against this application? No, that's not. Okay, fine. John, can you just refresh my memory, on either side, what's the nearest house?
Well, the nearest house on the right is
Toward the back, right?
It is, and that was the house that this was subdivided off of.
Right,
And that house is like way back from the road and downhill.
That's
and
what I
has like a
thought.
humongous driveway in front of it,
right.
and it's probably out of the wetlands.
And the other
and then
side?
to the left, I think it was like a colonial setback also from the road.
Yeah, my understanding is that this house stood out because it was so close to to Lincoln Avenue. So it did stand out. That's what I thought. Okay,
Yeah, I mean it's closer to the road than the 2 houses on either side of it. But,
Okay.
it's positioned where it is because of the wetlands.
so basically the visual impact is going to be, yeah, that's it, thank you, yeah. The visual impact is going to be most affected by people driving by at 35 to 40 miles an hour.
Or 50,
Yeah, well,
or depends.
I
But
know.
yeah, I mean, it's the people driving by it, or yeah.
I used to come down the hill on Lincoln Avenue and be cursed at by motorists because I was on a bicycle going down with my grandchildren, and they thought that I didn't belong on that road because they had to slow down to go past me. So it is, a very, very busy road.
I mean, it's a busy road. It's narrow. It's twisty. It's hilly. So, I mean, I think the way the property is landscaped, and it's I mean, they have a lot of landscaping between the house, between the
Right.
road. I think we add the landscaping along where the cars are. I don't think anybody's really going to notice it. I don't really think anybody driving by is going to notice the driveway is slightly bigger
Yeah,
than
that,
it is now. And
Right.
you're not passing anything that, it's not like we're coming close in and parking would be allowed anyway. It's not like I'm asking to be worse off than other neighborhoods are. I'm really asking to just let that house have normal parking screened
Okay.
to a normal setback.
John, can you just explain to me this additional area, how does that allow more cars?
Because
That-
it pushes the car closer to the wetland so that you have more room between the back of your car and getting out of the garage. So you can So we're pushing it closer to the wetland. It's really not getting wider, it's really pushing. It's just being a rectangle and pushing closer to the wetland, so you can park the cars closer to the side yard and have room to back the car out of the garage into some space and up, or the other car back, past the garage door and down the driveway.
Wait, so you're not widening the hammerhead?
It's getting slightly wider and just longer.
Deeper, right.
And deeper.
Where does the third car park when there's three? Is
Right
it-
now it parks in the hammerhead, which makes it impossible, which makes everybody have to back down the driveway.
So it's at the right angle to the garage. I mean, it's back
It's like
in.
perpendicular,
Right.
depending.
And can you put two cars in that? Can two cars back into the hammerhead?
Not really. Well, I mean, the hammerhead's kind of angled, so it's like, it cuts in, so I guess you could try to get two cars in the hammerhead, but, I mean, the hammerhead's made really to turn around.
Okay, or in Rybrook for basketball hoops. Yeah, that's the other,
I mean, the house doesn't have a basketball hoop, so.
yeah, but there's, a lot of hammerheads have basketball hoops in them in Rybrook. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay, a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Seconded? Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, you've heard my concerns and thoughts. Glenn, do you have any reservations, comments?
Oh, I always have reservations, but I ended.
Well, it's not a restaurant. I
Right,
think.
right. Yeah. I mean, my concern is that when you buy a house and you know that there's a limitation, but on the other hand, people buy houses and live with it for a while, and I'm not, at first I thought, they know, so to make this change is something that they should have been aware of, but I think anyone getting a variance is doing the same thing, just later down the road. So I think that, for me, it's a little troubling with the setback, but I'm more concerned with safety, and that's a bigger priority for me.
Not just for the current, but for future
Yes.
residents. Steve, what do you come?
Yeah, no, my big concern is safety, and I didn't mean to be obnoxious with my question. I just know from experience, and I wasn't making any disparaging remarks about the current owner. I just wanted to know the facts. So my overriding concern here is the safety of the family and visitors. So I think that it's an appropriate request.
And drivers.
And drivers. I think it's an appropriate request.
And the interesting thing is it doesn't sound like the current homeowner put these plans together, thought about it,
Right.
and said this is going to be a problem. It sounds like the builder built it, then sold it to them. They moved in. They maybe thought it was, but like you said, Glenn,
And
unless
sometimes,
you're living there and you're actually using it, then you realize like this is
sometimes you don't know that's a problem. till
yeah,
you're there.
yeah.
No, I
So
agree.
Also, I mean, it's a lot easier to build a house and move it through the permitting process without getting a variance. So, the variance, that's what he said. The builder said, you could take care of this later, but let's get this thing through now. I've heard that many, many times from my own neighbors. Okay, let me just run through the 5 factors here. The character issue is at the heart of the scenic roads overlay, but it's gonna be buffered. And, people are not exactly walking by.
I don't think anyone's going to see the difference.
Okay, so it can, that's not gonna be an issue. What about, I think the question, the benefit applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method. I think we're
That's
comfortable with that. I think it's quantitatively substantial,
Yeah.
all right? It's self-created, all right? And then the variance will not create any adverse impact to the physical or environmental conditions. Comfortable with that? Okay, let's go ahead and read the resolution. Whereas an application has been made to the zoning board by DRJ West LLC, the applicant, for a scenic roads overlay district vegetative buffer setback variance of 10 feet, where the minimum required scenic road overlay district vegetative buffer setback is 35 feet pursuant to Village Code 250-7, Section F, Part C, Item C, in connection with the proposed parking court extension on property located at 32 Lincoln Avenue in an R12 zoning district on the northwest side of Lincoln Avenue, approximately 350 feet from the intersection of Deer Run and Lincoln Avenue, said premises being known and designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID 135.57-1-9.2. Whereas the applicant proposes to expand the existing parking court by 356 square feet, resulting in a 25-foot scenic road overlay district vegetative buffer setback. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on February 7th, 2023, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. Whereas the public hearing was closed on February 7th, 2023. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board from the application, after viewing the premises and neighborhood concern, and upon considering each of the factors set forth at Section 250-13, Section G, Part 2, Part B, Sections 2A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds the variance will not create an adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. The benefit the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant to pursue that does not require the variance. 3, the variance is quantitatively substantial but not aesthetically substantial. The variance will not create any adverse impact to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And 5, the need for the variance is self-created. Now therefore be it resolved that said application, what I read before, is provisionally granted on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay, we're ready to vote. Steve?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joel? Excused? And Don, yes. Okay, application approved, 5 yeses, 0 nays. Congratulations, John. Okay, I'll remember that this is the only application that's ever come before me that's only had vegetation. That's a precedent-setting event.
The builder bought the house already approved, so we didn't handle the approval. We bought the lot approved, and then I had to
Right.
design a house that fit the exact footprint and the front elevation that was approved.
Oh, okay,
So we didn't, so it wasn't us getting the driveway the way it was. It was already done.
very good.
So,
Well, it wasn't just a portico, so that's terrific. Okay, next application. Item number ZBA 22-039, Stuart Gelbard and Adrian Gelbard, 51 Windingwood Road, construct a rear one-story addition and a new deck, and we have one of our,
If you don't mind, I am going to go to the audience
Okay.
and be John Q. Public for this, as I live next door.
okay? Let the record show that Glenn is recusing himself. Okay,
He
John.
lives right next door. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna show you pictures of the back of the house where we're putting the addition to enlarge the kitchen and then move the deck over. So the addition is basically going where the deck is and the deck's sliding over. And this is the front of the house. We're actually doing absolutely nothing to the front of the house that's changing it. And all the work we're doing will not be seen from the road. So, and these are some of the neighbors' things. Okay, so what we're doing is, this is the existing family room, and we're adding this piece for the kitchen to rebuild the kitchen in the back next to the family room and convert the old kitchen into a mudroom and laundry room. Because the kitchen actually in this house is very small for the size house. And they have a master bedroom suite on the second floor, which they had done about 20 years ago when they did the family room. So then that's the side of what it looks like with the new deck. And if I go to the floor plan, so over side you don't even see. Oh. Just shrink it back, sorry. Floor plan somewhere. Not too far. Just shrink it. There you go. I can't. Why am I not? No, I just can't get to the right spot. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like I just like off tonight. All right, hold on. We can do it from the reflected ceiling plan. It's like, okay, page. It's not a big enough project that I can. The picture is too small.
Which page, is this
I'm joking.
page A5 that you're on?
Yeah, right, so if I was just trying to make it bigger on the screen, right, so that, so. All right, so that's the best I'm gonna do, right, so basically, we're adding the new kitchen next to the family room, which is in here, and then we're adding the deck behind the living room. So, we need two variances. One is for floor area, which is for 89 square feet, because we're allowed 3429, and we're at 3518 with the addition. So we need 89 square feet of floor area. And then because this house actually started out as a ranch, and they did add the family room, and then they did do the master upstairs, which was good because it didn't change the footprint that much, you're allowed 16% main building coverage. And this addition puts us to 16.3, so we need a 0.3 of lot coverage. So those are the two things we're doing, but we really needed to get a better kitchen. We wanted it at the back of the house with the family room, and it's really not that big of a kitchen. So we really couldn't shrink it to 0.3 and try to eliminate the square footage because we just needed that amount of space to make it work.
Now, what was the increase when the previous addition was made, the square footage? Do you have that offhand?
Off the hand, I don't know.
I think it was on the, Steve, would you,
Oh, it might be on the chart, right?
on that earlier variance?
Well, I can tell you where the house was, right from the first page.
Because the word, successive variances usually indicates a
They
creep.
didn't get a variance on the last one. The last one was conforming.
Yeah, you're referring to the 1998?
1998, yeah, what was that?
I believe in 1998, they tried to get a variance to extend the garage, and it was denied.
It
was-
was a setback variance?
Right.
And it was denied.
And it was denied, and they only did the family room and the master suite.
Okay, without a variance.
which
Yeah,
was
I
conforming.
read it on here.
Which was conforming, and they did not request the variance that's being requested now.
Now, was
Specifically for side yard setback.
it the same owner? Same owner?
It was the same owner.
Okay, all right.
But it wasn't the same architect.
Right. Now, John, the part, obviously, I always ask you, is this the smallest possible variance that you can get away with? And you know that question's always coming from
Right.
me. So, as I look at the plan, I see that part of that kitchen that you're adding there seems to bump out. Is it just a window bump out, or is it the whole section?
I mean,
And why is
the
that
little
needed?
window bump outs for the table. So they have like a little table area at the end of the kitchen. And it's like a baguette kind of table thing. It's not like a big sitting area. So the kitchen has a center island. It has a small little area for a table in the bay window.
That's where it's gonna go, that's why you have that bay window there?
It's like the seat and then it's the window with like a couple of chairs.
Okay.
So we don't have like a big eating area, it's just like kind of a little table.
Now, just for purposes of the record, if you cut that out and squared it off, how much would you lose?
Not a lot.
Yeah, well, is there
I
an
don't
official
know, like
number?
6 times 2, so like, I don't know, 12 square feet maybe?
12 square feet, that's, okay.
And I think it's a feature, so it's kind of like, makes it
Well, that's
look
the
a little
balance,
better.
that's the balance. In other words, what are you getting for it versus what are you paying for it, yeah. The first variance, is, to me, a de minimis type of a thing. I don't have a problem with that. It was just the GFA part that I had a question with respect to how and where could you cut it, and the only place that I thought you could do it was that bump out. And that's why I asked the question, and, I wait the answer that you gave. Okay. Anyone have, any questions? Jamie?
No.
Are you comfortable with it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay, we don't seem to have a neighbor writing any letters this time around. So, is there any motion, is there anyone in the audience want to speak in favor? Yes, a distinguished member of the audience would like to come forward.
Glenn Brett Schneider, 53 Windingwood Road. And I will say from here, the audience, you gentlemen are much more intimidating looking. As you face the Gelbard house, I'm to his left, and I am the only neighbor that probably would be affected visually by this.
What do you see?
Almost nothing. It's really no different than it is now. The only difference that I see and I don't even see it from my yard because my house is set further back. So if I'm on my deck, I'm in my backyard, I don't really see him unless I actually go to the side of my property. So it's set up that it doesn't really impact visually. The only difference is that instead of the family room, you're a little closer because you have the kitchen. So I'm not saying I'm for or against. I just want to say is that I have no objection at all to the proposal. I will say that I have the same house, and in its base model, it's very small. I added on to mine, and I have the permits. And so, what they've done is very nice, but the kitchen is very small. We moved our kitchen back, and I think for the house, and I guess I'm advocating also for him. He's a friend, a very good friend, to be candid. But I think the house almost requires this kitchen. It's almost like the kitchen is so small compared to the rest of the house. It's almost doesn't really fit their needs. But for the purpose today is I'm the closest. I see it, and I have no objection at all. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience want to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak against the application? Okay, can I have a motion to close?
So moved. Second.
Seconded, okay, the hearing is closed. As I said earlier, the first variance I thought was minimal. The second one, I had that one concern, and you heard the explanation. You comfortable with it?
Yep.
I guess this is one of the situations that we have where the house has probably been standing for decades, but all of a sudden, the kitchen is not big enough, So it is a reflection of the needs of the current owners wanting more space than apparently the zoning code allows. We talked about that earlier. Let me go through the factors then. With respect to the character and the physical conditions, do you feel that no impact?
No impact.
Would you consider the second variance to be substantial,
Not really.
No.
numerically?
89 out of
Okay.
30.
And the only issue is that it's self-created.
It is self.
Okay, let me read the resolution then. Whereas an application has been made to the zoning board by Stuart Gelbard and Adrian Gelbard, the applicants, for 1, a main building coverage variance of 0.3%, where the maximum allowable main building coverage permitted is 16% pursuant to Village Code 250-37, Section B. And secondly, a gross floor area variance of 89 square feet, where the maximum allowable gross floor area is 3,429 square feet pursuant to Village Code 250-20, Section E, in connection with a proposed rear one-story addition, a new deck on property located at 51 Winding Wood Road in an R15 zoning district on the northwest side of Winding Wood Road at the intersection of Latonia Road and Winding Wood Road. Said premises being known and designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID 135.33-1-29, whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on February 7th, 2023, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity, whereas the public hearing was closed on February 7th, and whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. And whereas the board, from the application after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned, and upon considering each of the factors set forth in Section 250-13, Section G, Part B, Items 2A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds the variances will not create an adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. The benefit the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant to pursue that does not require the variances. 3, the variances are not quantitatively, numerically substantial, nor are they aesthetically substantial. 4, the variances will not create any adverse impact to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood, and the need for the variance is self-created. Now therefore be it resolved, all the things I said before, is hereby provisionally granted on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicants have paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay. Ready to vote, Stephen?
Yes.
Glenn?
Recused.
Oh, recused. There you go. Jamie?
Yes.
Joel? Okay, excused. And Don voting yes. So application is approved, 3 yeses, 0 nays. Congratulations. Okay. There we go. Okay, the third application this evening is, I'm going to need help on this one. So, John, you want to give me that last name, please?
You want to?
What is that?
Jhangimal.
Okay, John Gimal, all right. ZBA 23-001 Lal Jhangimal and Prisha Parvani for Bobbie Lane, construct second-story addition and new front portico. John, once again, welcome.
Okay, so I'll show you pictures of 4 Bobbie Lane, which is a split level. Now, in the rear of the house, it does have a family room addition that was done by the previous owner. So let's go to the drawings. Okay, so what we're proposing to do is add a master suite and a small office on the second floor over the main piece of the house, which is this section in here. And then reside the house, we're going to add a awning roof over the garage doors to kind of break up the house a little bit, and we're adding a portico over the front door, and we're going to re-roof the bay window with a copper roof, and the copper roof's going to match the portico, and the copper roof's going to be over the garage doors, and we're going to re-hardy the house, and we're going to do panels in the top gables, is what our concept is to do to the house. And
You're just going up, not going Forward.
We're not changing the footprint, and we're only going over the living room, dining room, kitchen part of the house. We're not going over the family room or the extended part of the kitchen out the back. So we're just adding the family room, the master, which actually isn't, we're adding a small master, decent closet space, a decent bathroom, and a small study, so that, to work, for an office to work out of. So this, on the side of the house, we're just seeing the roof line on this side.
Where's that office gonna be, John?
It's gonna be over the front door, or next to the front door, like on the second floor. I'll show you the floor plan. So this is the side of the house. So we're only going over the main part of the house here, and then the piece of the kitchen that sticks out in the family room is all, we're not touching. So we're just going over the main part of the house. Let me go to the floor plan. That's the main level of the house. Let's go to the second floor. Okay, so this is. So we're doing a small study here. We're doing 2 closets, a master bedroom that's 16 and a half by 17, and we're doing a master bath that has 2 sinks, a shower, and a toilet, and a stackable washer dryer on the second floor. We're doing a 2-story foyer to get light in and just make the house feel better. So, so that's what we're proposing to do on the second floor, which we kept it tight, and we just went over the main portion of the house. So as far as setbacks and everything else, everything conforms. The only thing that doesn't conform is our gross floor area, because this house lot is an R10 zone, and it's pretty tight on the R10, as the lot size is like the 10,000 square feet. So we're allowed 2958, and the new gross area would be 3663. So we're looking for 705 square feet of gross floor area. I did go through the neighborhood, and there's other houses that have similar additions to them on similar size lots. So we have, I'll give these out. We have 40 Rock Ridge Drive, which is the street behind, which are all pretty much the same houses. That lot is slightly bigger at 0.36 as opposed to 0.30. And that's allowed 3,300 square feet. And that house with a similar addition is at 3996. So that's 696 square feet over the allowable. But it's it's allowed more, but it's 3996, and we would only be at 3663. So we'd actually be in theory smaller than that house. But I'll get those.
Thank you.
Instead of stapling together, I did 2 sides. So that's
What about the houses on Bobbie Lane?
okay. So the next one's on Bobbie Lane. Okay. So the next one is 2 Bobbie Lane, which is the house to the left of it, which is again pretty much the same house. Now that lot is a 0.3. They're allowed 3,000 square feet, so it's pretty close to the size they're at. And that house is at 3676. So it's 676 square feet over. They did the addition, pitching the roof into dormers.
Pete?
on Rock Ridge, which again is the split level, pretty much the same house. That's 0.31 of an acre. They're allowed 3,050 square feet. And that house is 3712. It's 662 square feet over. And again, it has the addition on the second floor. Okay, so in the neighborhood, a lot of people have done this addition, and obviously when you do this addition on this house, you need a little bit more square footage than is allowed. I also want to realize all these houses, the garage level and that family room at that lower level is still 2-story, so that's all counting in the FAR. So we're counting in that FAR, all these houses, in that number is their 2-car garage and the room behind the garage is counted in these numbers. Now, this house also has a little bit of the family room kind of pushed out the back of it, which gives it probably a little bit more space. But the numbers of overage and where we are at like 3712 square feet versus 3663, we're pretty much right in the same square footage as these houses are.
Could you, as a partial tangent, engage in a soliloquy of the uniqueness of Rye Brook when it comes to house size in various zoning areas that you spoke about earlier, for the benefit of the record?
Okay. So in Rye Brook, when you figure out your FAR, Rye Brook has the same exact multiplier to every zone. So you do the formula on the sheet, and it's the same multiplier per square footage of lot in an R5 zone versus an R25 zone. So there's no difference in how square footage is calculated in different size lots.
Now, in your opinion,
Now, in most municipalities, an R5 zone, an R7, an R12, an R10, R20, all usually have different multipliers that reflect how big a house could be in that neighborhood, and it kind of takes into account the neighborhood. I want to say more dramatically or more sensitively. So, Rye Brook doesn't. Their multiplier is the same in every zone, which is kind of interesting.
constraining.
Constraining. Right, and in Rye Brook, if you compare it to other municipalities, it's more restrictive than a lot of other municipalities, which I get. They want to protect a neighborhood, and I get that, and I get that you come to board to look at what people are doing, and if you're doing it, and it's not noticeable, you're doing it in good taste, and you're not, you do it and you disguise what you're doing, and you're not making something that looks like a big huge box and going to the outsides of your limitations is more allowed than if you just push it to the envelope and beyond it.
Now,
So-
Stephen, when did Rye Brook come up with this particular formulaic situation with respect to the different zoning districts? Do you recall offhand what year that was set
No,
up?
Don, I've been here 17 years, and that's been the calculation that we've used.
It was about 2000.
So probably before I got here.
Yeah, so in a sense, what I'm getting at is that,
It was when Frederick Clark came in and redid everything. It was about 2004, give or take. 2003, 2004 was about when they did.
right, and I came on the board, I think, in 5 or 6. So what I'm getting at is we're getting applications coming before this board based on a new world order, a view of what the owner needs to live in their house, which was set, hardwired in 2004, let's say. And we're now in 2023, and we're getting these applications where people want to bump out their split levels, add a work area because they're working from home, and so they need the space.
Or they have a lot of 3-bedroom homes, they need the 4th bedroom, right, so, right, you got a lot of people.
Right, so essentially what we're getting is, we're getting the backlash effect rather than addressing the issue, proactively and saying, okay, what are the needs of the neighborhood today? And let's look at or revisit the code.
Right.
Okay, now, Steve, how much of an effort would that take in order for the Board of Trustees to undertake that kind of a project?
Well, Don, somebody would have to advocate for that. I mean, I don't know if the architects would get together or homeowners would get together. It wouldn't be something that the building department would advocate. It would have to be someone who would bring it to the board, or bring it to Chris Bradbury and have to put it on for discussion. So it wouldn't be.
But no, what I'm getting at is as a taxpayer in Rybrook, the last thing I want to see is my taxes to go up, for an unnecessary project. On the other hand, if it is something that is needed, when we came in with a comprehensive plan, in other words, so those kinds of
they
things were
could probably
needed at the time.
Take a survey of the other towns. I mean, John might be familiar with
I'm
what
not
other
sure
towns.
that when they had Frederick P. Clark do it, like 2004, 2005, 2003, I don't remember exactly what brought that on or how they went about doing that. Like, you'd almost have to ask Chris Bradbury would know, because he was.
Yeah,
I
but
believe
you
he was
you
here
could
when he did. Yeah,
give
we
more
know.
information because you go to different boards in different towns, and you're all over Westchester, so you might be able to, present something based on your, on behalf of your clients, to, change that code, change that formula.
Do I want to? No kidding. That was a joke.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here.
Just
Then I'd miss you all. No kidding.
1 second, I'm sorry, guys. The meeting is being recorded, so I'm just concerned that your voices are going to carry over into the recording, and it'll be hard to take minutes and hard for people to track. So either, step outside or. I'm very, very sorry. Just sensitive equipment.
Okay. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that issue was brought up.
I think it's an issue that the village should look at, because I think times have changed since then, and also, in my opinion, when they did it back in 2004 and 2005, they went really more restrictive than they should have. And
Okay.
I think it was a backlash from, I think, Red Roof going through, and I think Candy Lane were the two kind of poster children that were like newer developments that pushed old zoning that was only your setbacks. You only had your setbacks. You could build the biggest 2-story box. In your setbacks, and they went from like way too loose to like really tightening it up. So maybe there has to be something in between.
Well, let's get back to this application.
Okay.
All right,
but
so
anyway,
so
much
John
for-
indicated that he needed that space, in terms of the kitchen, and that really is my only concern on the application. Is this the smallest variance possible to meet the needs of the applicant?
Well, the fact that he's not going all the way back to the extension on the living room, and he's just using the what'd you call it?
I'm just using the main box of that house.
box.
Right.
So I don't know how much smaller you can make
And
it.
I mean, the master bathroom doesn't have the tub. It's just a shower, 2 sinks, and a toilet. We didn't go dramatic. The bedroom's not really that big. It has the 2 closets. The office isn't that big. So we really kept it to that box. We really kept it tight. And that house will look nice and will blend in with like all the other houses that have that piece over the living room. So I think from the road, it's not going to look like it's bigger than it is.
I was going to say, I don't think looking at the pictures that can you go back to one of the drawing of the outside of the house? Thank you. I don't think you could do anything where it wouldn't look funny, because it conforms to the lines of the house as drawn. I don't think you could physically make that addition smaller, because it'll just look funny.
And it looks I think it's a soft looking addition. I think
No,
it just, the house won't look, it's as big as it looks.
Glenn, okay?
I'm fine.
All right. Is it fair to say that we haven't heard anything about any water issues, so from an environmental or character neighborhood,
We're
you don't
not,
think
we're not
that's?
disturbing any dirt.
Yeah, so no problem with the environmental conditions. Do you think that it's about 25% variance, so I think it's substantial.
Substantial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Would you have to ask if there are any objections?
and I thought I did.
No.
Oh, I did? Okay, sorry about that. Is there anyone who want to speak in favor, against? Any letters coming in? None?
Received.
Okay, so in that case, motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Close.
Second.
Okay, all right, the 5 factors then, it's self-created and it's substantial. The others are not impacting, all right? And you heard John say that he made the case for the smallest possible variance.
Which we appreciate, John.
Yes, John knows it's coming, so it's always good to anticipate.
Well, I mean, that's an argument of going to boards and having to do it. You know you have to do it well and small.
Okay, all right. Whereas an application has been made to the zoning board by Lal Jhangimal, and Prisha Parvani, apologize for any mispronunciation, the applicants, a lot easier to pronounce the applicants, for a gross floor area variance of 705 square feet, where the maximum allowable gross floor area is 2,958 square feet, pursuant to Village Code 250-22, Section E, in connection with the proposed second-story addition and new front portico on property located at 4 Bobbie Lane in an R10 zoning district on the west side of Bobbie Lane, approximately 200 feet from the intersection of Rock Ridge Drive and Bobbie Lane, said premises being known and designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID 135.35-1-32, and whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on February 7th, 2023, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity, and whereas the public hearing was closed on February 7th, whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, accordingly no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board, from the application after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned, and upon considering each of the factors set forth at Section 250-13, Section G, Part B, Items 2A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds, 1, the variance will not create any adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. 2, the benefit the applicant seek cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant to pursue that does not require the variance. 3, the variance is quantitatively, numerically substantial, but not aesthetically substantial. 4, the variance will not create any adverse impacts to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And 5, the need for the variance is self-created. Now therefore be it resolved, for the variance stated earlier, is hereby provisionally granted until the vote on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay, comfortable? Okay, Steve?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joel excused, Don, yes. Application approved, 4 yeses, 0 nays. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, the last item on the agenda is approval of the October zoning board. And Drew, how come so late on the October? Any reason that we know of?
No, I think Tara. Because Tara is the only one who does our meeting minutes. She had to do several transcripts of some really long meetings for the planning board. So she tried to get those done, and then had to catch up with planning board. So we're all caught up. So
Good.
we shouldn't be far behind anymore. But that's why October was a little delayed.
That's what I thought. All right, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That's it?
Second.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Steve, what do we got in the pipeline for March?